kicking your like neighbor's wife in the knee so that they get hurt before they get you. I mean, survival isn't always ethical, and people don't always, act righteously in self-defense. They often act pretty cowardly. I think.
That's true. I'm still fighting for my life though.
Exactly. Yeah, which I think is like the basic. Like, I think everybody has that right to fight for their own life. I don't think that's like, I don't think you could imagine an ethical system where you could take that away from someone.
True.
Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Big self-defense. Actually, I'm not. I just like the idea of some self-defense, defending your own life in the face of adversity with reasonable degree.
Right. That's the question. Is like, when is it? I'm like tasing someone for a TV at Walmart on Black Friday, kind of thing. Like, well, I'm defending my right to property, and that was mine, and she was gonna take it. So
she's ruining my potential enjoyment that I could have had with my family. What the fuck?
I'm a utilitarian. I think that she's diminishing total social utility. So
I didn't know Black Friday was so crazy over there in America.
Not recently, but in like 5 years ago, definitely.
Yeah, that's Black Friday. I only remember that being a thing since 2014 in the UK. That just isn't historically a thing over here, which is, I guess that's cool.
I kind of like that.
I prefer that too. I think going crazy over finding new things is just a little bit deranged. Just a tad.
And because most of it's a scam too. Like, it's not even like you get that good of deals. There's a couple deals, and then but everyone like who's rushing in there and isn't getting that is just settling and buying stuff at mostly full price. Like, it's not even like you're getting that much of a discount for most products.
Didn't know it was that bad.
So there's like, that's where people line up like 18 hours before, because there'll be like 10 TVs that are normally $1,000 for like $70.
What?
Throughout the store, and so people have to run to find them.
Oh, I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh,
like that's
an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
In April.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean in November.
Yeah, exactly.
Bet he thinks it's in April. By he, you know what I mean. He gets that wrong 3 times. That's actually something that happened 3 times. Really? And I like how, yeah, he gets it 3 times, and he goes, "Oh, sorry, I just woke up a little early."
What?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta be waking up real early, as in not sleeping, I think, on a certain level.
Take this. But something I noticed about a lot of these cop videos is that a lot of people are just drunk.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is, yeah. I mean, I have a really negative opinion about alcohol, and yeah, that just
this is not helping.
Yeah, absolutely not helping. Because I'm not even really used to drunk people, because I just don't hang around that, so I don't really know the full extent of the levels of drunkenness. But these people just seemed so deranged, unacceptably deranged, and it just seems just such a no-brainer for, hey, maybe we need to have serious action against this at this point. We can't. Now, because I don't use it, it's very easy for me to go and go, oh, I don't see the utility in this. This is
other
nonsense.
People gotta stop doing this thing I don't do.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. But I think at this point, it's just so destructive to the dangerous things that we've built our society around, like driving is super dangerous. And I definitely do think we should, build infrastructure that isn't super reliant on driving.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I think it would be huge, is if there was just more transportation,
so
people didn't have to fucking drunk drive and shit.
For sure. It's not like they have to, but it's like it's more likely to happen when they're in.
It's the easier option, and when you're drunk, you're not thinking rationally. You're thinking like,
exactly right.
Where are my keys? And you're fumbling, like.
And that's what I'm thinking, right? Is that because you don't think rationally when you're drunk anyway? It's the fact that, okay, um, you know, maybe drinking itself is the problem here. You know, we're saying no drunk driving, right? Drink responsibly. I'm thinking the same thing with this gambling. I don't think there is a drinking responsibly. Well, obviously there is, but in terms of you're going out to a different place and then expecting that person to get back when the whole group is intoxicated, they have to find their way back. You know,
Definitely.
that's they're making that decision when they're fucked up in the head. It's not good. It's really
Yeah,
not
but
good.
like that's the thing. It's like I would like it if I don't know if bars or whatever had to subsidize public transport or shuttles or something. Like if we can't get actual public transport, like bars, the people who are providing the alcohol should have to pay for the like harm reduction. You know, like I just it just doesn't make sense to me to be like, well, we're going to get rid of alcohol because it's too entrenched culturally. There's too many jobs that depend on it. I mean, like it's just unlikely politically, socially, whatever. And again with prohibition, like it just was a failure. So people have that memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you're looking at like what would harm reduction look like, it would be like making sure people had like all of the things they would need as little friction as possible to get home safely, to, you know, take care of themselves, like rather than it being like, okay, you're drunk, and the most the bartender does is, I can't serve you anymore, and then you're kicked out, like on the street, like that's so little in terms of what they're required to do when they see a person who's like too drunk. I think they should have to subsidize some of the harm reduction because, like, yeah, they're making bank off of fucking giving people this kind of dangerous fucking drug, you know. So
Yeah, super dangerous.
maybe get a
Um,
fucking percentage of that profit, you know.
oh, yeah, for sure. I was thinking more of yeah. I mean, I'm not into the history of prohibition, so I have no idea how it worked. But I think everyone is under the at least everyone sort of understands that it's a failure.
Yeah,
And I mean I just see hard bans as a complete failure.
for all drugs, really.
Just
It's
yeah, it just kind of sucks, and it just kind of sucks with alcohol because it is really easy to produce. So
exactly like it's the oldest fucking right because just things naturally ferment. Like it's when we started farming that grain, you know,
mhm.
making that barley 10,000 years ago, just leaving it in barrels. Uh-oh. And we got alcohol. So
Yeah, so that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So um, at least physically. So I think it's for me, it's way more of a social thing of just creating the same stigma we did um, around smoking to and doing it to alcohol
yeah,
because
definitely.
alcohol is just so destructive. It's so bad. It's so it really
Domestic
is.
violence, yeah, absolutely.
So, um,
Domestic violence, gamble, like alcohol is like an enabler of a lot of really dangerous stuff for sure.
mhm. Yeah.
Like it's not just bad on its own. It's like it reduces your inhibitions, so you do like fucked up shit a lot easier.
Hmm. And yeah, you notice too that it's always combined with another bad technology or drug too, and that's not good because they're sort of getting away with doing other bad things to you. And that's why I can do it because I like to be in the know of everything that's going on, uh, and not being in the know, that's pretty worrying. That the lack of control there, and it just sucks that it's such a cultural force that it's very even among people that are, I guess you would call them more successful in society. Even they have you know they want to do these. Actually, I think like with many of these vices, to you know a lot of wealthy people just like doing it anyway. So
Yeah,
like doing all these bad vices, like yeah, I always found it really shocking that it's like, oh, learning about history, and then all these sort of different monarchs just have like a bunch of different mistresses, and that's just,
yeah,
oh yeah, it's like only a handful of them, not even one hand of kings of a nation would have had would have been faithful to their wives. You know, they're just like going on,
Yeah,
oh, and
but
this
they're
is
like
meant.
enforcing divorce laws through the church like incredibly harshly. Like they're fucking punishing anybody who even tries to get divorced like through the church.
Mm, yeah, depending on where you are, yeah, it's
Well, I'm
yeah,
just thinking like like European areas with Catholicism, like
yeah,
divorce, major sin. A lot of these kings very connected to the church. Like they're fucking got like a harem, and they're getting pissed that this like wife wants to leave her abusive husband. They're like, God would never allow that. Like like it's.
yeah. It's I don't even get that level of hypocrisy. It's so divorced from.
Well, I think how a lot of people deal with hypocrisy, I think it's pretty consistent. Like, I think people like try to subject others to social norms as a way of
Mhm.
coping with their own sense of like deviance or like, you know, um, hypocrisy. Like, it's this idea of like, well, all, like it's what I've said about the parents being like, my kid can't get off their phone, but they're like talking about this on Facebook. They're like doing it in the car, waiting for their kid. The kid comes in, they're not looking at their kid, and they're being like, kids these days can't even get off the technology. Like it's, like it's they're enforcing this on their kid as a way of ignoring their own problems with like being addicted to tech and stuff. It's like
Yeah, how
everyone
about that?
focuses on the kid instead of being like, well, how is it possible that it's only the kids? Like
Hmm.
how would that possibly be the case that the ones with no money are the primarily impacted ones in terms of social media? The ones who've
Hmm.
been on the earth less, who've used phones less, how is it that they are the center of attention in conversation? And I think the answer is that parents ignore their own issues by focusing on their like trying to solve their kids.
Yeah, I definitely could see that for sure. It's one of those do as I say and as I do.
That's a classic parent move, isn't it?
Yeah. And in a lot of ways they are, absolutely correct. Um, because they don't accept that about themselves. But it's when it gets weird when, they're so, um a lot of these guys, just had official it was not even, oh, this is, a mistress in the modern sense that they're
Yes,
hidden
that's secret at
away.
all.
Yeah, it's just like a public thing and it's just publicly acknowledged as like an official role of state.
Slightly smaller quarters than the actual queen. Like it's literally like the same. It's like the same fucking hallway and shit. Like
Yeah,
everybody
it's
knows.
really just no. Yeah,
One thing I always
I
found
can't that.
interesting is how people like from what I read about like the French Revolution and stuff, and people when they were looking at monarchs, they would when things were going bad, they would often be like, it's the advisor, like the kings being like misled by an
Mm,
evil circle of advisors. Like they were so reluctant to ever be like the king is themselves like the problem, or like the institution of the king is our like our father like is the problem, right? Like they were so reluctant to do that, so they would concoct these wild theories about how like it was the wife who's fucking misleading him, and there's like a conspiracy within the royal court against the king, and the king's fighting for us, but like he can't fight for us because he's being misled by these evil insiders. And
wait,
I think
that's
that's like
really funny because those are the same narratives around Trump. Oh, this is really
exactly.
bad advice. Oh my
Yeah, it's like,
god.
oh, he wants to help us, but he can't because of the evil insiders who are blocking his agenda. Like, you know, and again, it's like you look at what like the people Trump's trying to appoint, like this guy Pete Hegseth to Secretary of Defense. I mean, he has no experience in the administrative state or the Department of Defense. And so even if he wanted to do reform, he has no conception of how the institution works. So he can't reform it. Like Trump's not even doing the initial moves of a person who wants to enact the agenda he claims to enact. Like he's not even starting the process of picking a person who could reasonably accomplish these goals. But people will still insist, like, no, it's just that the deep state's like trying to take him out. But no, I think hero worship and like excusing people for like what obviously is their fault in their crimes, but being like, no, it's just like they didn't mean to, or like this kind of, I don't know, this like unwillingness to let go of some conception of who a person is that you don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like a parasocial relationship. Like you see with YouTubers, you see it with like Twitch
Oh
streamers,
yeah.
like when they get exposed for something, it's like, no, that's there being, that quote was taken out of context, or his girlfriend was crazy too when he raped her, like, just this like
That is true.
unwillingness to integrate like new information with a kind of public relations persona, like a completely crafted fake orchestrated persona, and then people are like, no, I gotta hold on to that instead of integrating like the reality of the person. I just don't get that.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
super pathetic.
Yeah, it sucks too because um when at least when it comes to these YouTuber types, actually with all these hero types, is that it is a massive people defending bad behavior, and the people that are going to be most invested in the conversation are going to be the fans of that person. So there is a lot of narrative control that they have. But in terms, I'm talking about in terms of like in history, in terms of like 2 years after the event happens, and a lot of people have sort of kind of forgotten the details. They can really
Right.
fill those details in with their own narratives. No.
Yeah, you see it with the Catholic Church and the pedophile stuff. Like, they've been able to transform this narrative of like, when you look at the priests who were copying pedophiles, most of them were married to women. Almost none of them were gay. But and in fact, I've said this before, but they used the knowledge of other gay priests as a way to keep their own pedophilia covered up. But the narrative is transformed into it was the gay priests that were raping the kids. The problem was that there were gays in the church, not like that there was unchecked pedophilia in the church. Like but like again, that's because if you're Catholic or a Christian, you're really invested in this story, in this narrative of the church ultimately being like a place of God and a place of, social progress and, like social spirituality and stuff. So you're gonna, keep defending this years in when everyone else has already kind of moved on.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like how you get to have so much sway over history if you're just the one that's obsessively, you know, still in the story once everyone is left. And then you get to control the narrative. Good. Oh, did you see what I sent about the co-op thing though?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I I
what do you think in terms of like how it would affect the strategy? Like what would be the, because yeah, the polls thing makes sense. Like that would be different.
I think the co-op changes because co-op would be just bigger in general on this because it's just more accessible for people that are not unhinged. And
Yes.
well, now you have a bigger co-op. You look at the strats that existed in zombies, and they were quite different in yeah, a lot of the time they would use pull to determine who did what in a strat and to make certain things that would seem, really unsafe with two people around, really safe. I remember the Ascension spawn strat people would do. They
Oh, really?
would they would have one guy sitting in the corner and then the blue guy, and no zombies would pull to him. You would actually have a way harder time playing zombies. It would actually make the strats a lot more interesting and a lot less. You can just play solo in co-op because
Basically, yeah, and the
that's
person follows, yeah. Five would be the biggest example of this, right? Like,
I
I
don't even know
mean,
how five plays to be honest.
because I've seen like I remember from years ago, like five people, yeah, like it's pretty dependent on the white player being the central part of the horde, and then the blue player is kind of constantly running slightly ahead, but that just wouldn't work as well
Hmm.
with equal.
Yeah. Also, how would jug side change? The guy throwing the
Oh,
nades.
amazing. In terms of camping, big time.
Mm, that sounds really interesting. That would, yeah. I wonder how that would change the narratives of what what map is considered harder or not, and what people prefer to play because as a result of that. Do you think that would change? Because I don't know how the fast room narratives exist
Definitely.
now.
Oh, definitely. Because like the whole idea is like, oh, the person's nading in the area, and if it's possible, like I haven't seen how the polls work, right? So I don't know, but it would just make sense to me that if the pulls were stronger towards the other player, it would be a lot harder to camp because you'd constantly have to be concerned that the zombies are going to pull.
Okay.
More so than you already are. I mean, that's a big part of what white player is doing, is just killing the zombies and making sure a guy doesn't run in to the room without you calling it out.
Do the narratives change?
Or I'm not sure though.
Is there a, do you see any major preferences forming in the first room side, or do you think everyone's just playing everything?
It's so tough to imagine things progressing in a completely different way. I feel like a lot of the strategies make sense regardless of polls. Like, it's for sure easier when you have white player, but I mean, with quickside, you're still doing the juju thing. There isn't another way to run that really, than having one guy in there. And kind of same with chuck side. I mean, I'm not sure how you would even do horde ups outside of what's kind of already the case. So, I don't think it would change a ton. But in terms of high round co-ops, I could see it being different. Like, yeah, especially with like 5, because it's so tight and like the polls are super important in terms of like creating danger.
Okay. Oh, Tricky's. Sorry, Tricky's in my chat. You're just posting Crops emotes, one of my favorite video essayists.
I haven't seen any of his new video essays. I've only
Oh,
seen part of one of them.
wait, does he have any new ones? I didn't know he had new ones. Hold on. What is this channel called? Like Crops Second or something? That's just my guess. No results. Crops Beastars. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was Crops TV. Yeah, it was something. It's not like it was a bad video. It just completely lost focus. It was one of those things. I remember when I was asked to write reviews when I was a kid, and what I would do is just I would recount the plot because I would have no idea on how to. Would you say?
Like no idea about how to synthesize or condense or kind of summarize, or
you don't even like condense. I just don't even know how to form, a judgment. Yeah, just completely brain dead, basically. Where at least the way the question is posed to you to write a review, I know how to form a judgment as a kid. I've been opinionated and had a great understanding of everything I do. Everything that I do in video games, but what I haven't had an understanding is what does a review look like? How is a good review structured? It's just never given the tools for that, and so I just couldn't construct one in the framework of writing something. It's something that Stealth brought up, where he was saying that these kids just can't write anything, and I was saying it's probably just in the boundaries of school that you can't even formulate something because you're not connecting the situation in your head to something that you do at home or something that you do in conversation. You're disconnecting it from that and treating it as if it's something entirely different. Sorry. And
yeah, like instead of it being something that you implement day to day, like I want to understand the world, I want to have opinions of it, I want to have judgments of it. It's like I use these tools for doing the homework assignment where I explain a part of a book that everyone else also read. Like it's very very limited.
It's it's a very jejune approach to writing, and I think that's what Crops did, where he posed the question and then finally answered the question. I kept the question on a notepad. Okay, this is the question, and he's just failing to answer this at every single time. And then he at the end of the video, he finally begins to answer the question, and he goes, and it's just a very basic answer, and it was something like, why is Beastars underrated? And it was just like, oh, to be honest, it's just because it's a furry anime, and it's like that was your analysis. It just we knew that. I think everyone watching the video already has that conception that there is a furry stigma. and you could have elucidated that in your video on why that exists and gotten into, the background of,
Right. Stigma
many,
against furries, like anything. I mean, you could have,
for sure, right?
beyond, right, if you want to build on it more, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, you could have even incorporated elements of the anime into, talking about furries, stuff like, oh, furries are sort of this like marginalized identity, and we're human too. Look at this anime, and they're furry characters, but you can relate to them on a very human level because they're basically just humans dressed up in fur, kind of like what furries are. He could have done many interesting things, but what he instead done was, hey, by the way, let me just recount the plot, and the video is sort of because it recounts the plot. Who is it for? Is it for the people that haven't seen the anime? Well, there's this massive spoiler culture that exists where people just
Right,
watch
right.
something without spoilers, so they're probably not going to be super interested in your video. And if they've already seen it, then
Right.
a recounting of the plot doesn't mean anything. You're just recounting the plot. It's not like you're adding, a very detailed opinion of what has happened. No, he's just actually recounting the plot and then telling me, a very basic analysis of why he thinks it's good. Oh yeah, this was cool. It's not anything cool. So that
But
was
that's what I was talking about a week or two ago about the illusion of depth with these 2 hour long videos. Like, there isn't this like like you look at a 2 hour video, you're like, wow, he has 2 hours worth of things to say on this topic. That must be a lot. It must be multi-layered. It must be complex. It must come from different angles. It probably pulls from a bunch of different perspectives on this topic. He's probably read a lot about this topic. He's probably built this argument over like months of thinking and talking with other people. And it's like, no, like they just recap most of the story that fills out about 70% of the video essay, and then the rest is an analysis based on what everyone already knows. Like they
terrible.
just kind of
Yeah.
bloat. It's like bloatware for video essays kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just unnecessary.
I think a lot of people are very bad at recounting. Sorry, really good at recounting, but really bad at actually sort of giving new content in relation to what they've seen, or even just saying a worthwhile opinion. I think there's been this massive trend of brief analysis of this. I've been getting recommended these videos actually. It was a brief analysis of this, and it was maybe a 10-hour video on the
Exactly.
Phantom
Yeah, yeah.
Menace.
It's like ironic, like distancing of. It's like, oh, well, I'm already pointing out sarcastically that it's not brief. Therefore, you can't criticize me for it. It's like they're already baking in the irony to like deflect from criticism.
Yeah, it's just I don't. That's not legitimate to me. This is so fucking stupid and a massive waste of time. Um, I've
Well, I
not.
think that people learn in school, like, so there's this idea of closure, and closure is where you have a question about something, and then when it closes, you're satisfied with your answer, basically. And what I've seen when learning about how people learn is that those who have like a much wider sense of like they need to have a lot more to feel satisfied with an answer to a question. Um, they tend to be uh, much more interesting and much more learned because they're constantly seeing new areas and aspects. Like when they learn something, it doesn't close; it opens up more sets of questions and angles, right? Like whereas a lot of people, I think, in kind of normal schooling systems, they learn to have closure around a topic when they have the right answer. So when people are recounting stuff, they're just recounting the right answer that they've learned. Like that's enough for them. It's just to know what everyone else knows, to summarize what everyone else knows. And then they're doing a slight build on that, like a slight twist, so it's not plagiarism, right? But it's like they don't go beyond that because the question that they have close so quickly they can't build. Like the answers of like, well, why do people not like this? Oh, people hate furries. Closes. Right? It's gone. Like you don't need to. There's not more to say because he's answered it like so quickly and so simply, right?
Mm,
Whereas a lot of people could have follow up questions that allow for more interesting and in depth kind of
yeah,
formulations. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. That was cool. And what Stealth was telling me how he doesn't wanna like don't be mean to me. It's like, oh, okay, this is not getting better. This is just gonna always stay as. you know, you're always gonna stay as a mediocre writer because, and you're always gonna have these yes men. Because what I notice is like when it's when friends make something, they go, oh yeah, you know, that was really cool. They just
So good,
lose
dude.
this critical lens.
So good.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that's not good.
But I get why. Like that's why you need an editor that's not a friend. Like just a person who's like done this kind of thing before and knows how to make it like successfully. You know,
Hmm.
like I think a lot of these people need to collaborate with more professional, um, serious-minded people who aren't just trying to be their friend. Because I mean, yeah, like if you're trying to be a person's friend, you're never gonna be truly honest with them in that way.
Oh yeah, true.
Because it is insulting. Like you spend probably 6 or 7 hours making something, and your friend tells you like I don't like this, and there isn't much here.
Yeah,
Like
you do need to be
it is
that.
insulting.
You need to be that
It's
guy. If you're making something, that guy where you open a dialogue to criticism and open their brain to even being able to criticize you and knowing that they're not gonna face reprisals from, you know, an oversensitive bitch because people are worried about their friendships. You know, those are valuable to them, and you know, if they don't really give a fuck about giving you good, what you call it, feedback. Sorry if I cut out of conversation this because I'm playing a video game. I'm trying my
That's
best
fine.
to multitask it. No, I didn't feel good. Serious. Got to go. Sister came in my room. All he did was recount the plot in his own way. I know, right? Whack. It's whack that I died that too. My brain can't handle these new games. Fucking creep, man. Oh, well, not good luck for this game. I got there's a practice mode here, but hardly a practice mode. I guess it's for damage. I'm gonna buy this. What the fuck is this? Wait, this is sick. Spare costs 5 keys, but this is a thing? Do a lot of damage though. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. What is this? I wasn't using the Q ability. Okay. I think I was using Q actually. Was I? No, I was using right click. Shit. I'm leaving. My eyes are seething shut. I don't want to wake up late tomorrow, so I need to fix my bike.